Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what Live Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of Live.
It was nice to at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
A new week begins right here, right now, live on this Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. We appreciate you joining us here to kick off this new week following a very long holiday weekend. DRS, I haven't seen you since the 3rd of July. I hope your holiday weekend, your Independence Day, was fantastic. I made sure at my backyard barbecue that we had potato buns for our hot dogs and hamburgers, and we are very excited to get a new week rolling all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. What is that saying that you enjoy letting the people know about, DRS, on a Monday? New week, new what?
New week, new money, absolutely. New attitude. Why is that? Because I take a look now. It's July the 8th, Ben. And in 1 week's time, teams are reporting to training camp. And I say to myself, is the summer already over at this point? No, of course it's not. But it just feels like fall is inching closer and closer and closer. And yes, we have a lot of updating to do over the weekend. So let's get this party started.
Let's get this party started indeed. As we say, never fast forward through summer. Enjoy these warm months and the warm weather and being outside, whether it's by the pool, by the ocean, by a lake, wherever you may be. But no football is on the horizon. By the time we are back next week and even later this week, we're going to have rookies showing up to training camp to get this football season underway. Some football future previews later this week. But we start with a ton around Major League Baseball. Exactly 1 week from today, in the heart of Texas, inside the Lone Star State in Arlington, it will be the Major League Baseball All-Star Home Run Derby, followed by the All-Star Game, that Midsummer Classic, just 8 days away. And on a Sunday evening, we got our MLB All-Star teams named. We have our pitchers, our starters, and those reserves revealed. DRS, some things that stand out. The Phillies lead all teams around MLB with the most All-Star game selections at 7. We also saw 33 first-time All-Star selections, including 19 that are under the age of 27. It's a new dawn in MLB reflected in those All-Star game selections.
Yeah, pretty cool all the way around, and specifically for me being a Phillies fan, there's a lot of players in there that will be Phillies, so that's fantastic to watch it play out. But it does seem like we're handing that baton over to a younger generation, and I'm all here for that. And also, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, probably the best form of an All-Star game, the closest thing you're getting to the real thing. So I enjoy the Summer Classic.
Yeah, it is going to be a great time. Again, 8 days away. The All-Star break will be here as of this point next week, following a full slate on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, to end things out. The Mets' Pete Alonso trying to continue what we have seen in the Grimace era into that home run derby. Exactly 1 week from today, will be seeking his third title at the Derby. He commits, joining Alec Boehm of the Philadelphia Phillies and the young slugger for Baltimore, Gunnar Henderson.
Now, I was doing research on this. Like, are we going to have more than 3? Like, because I know we'll get to it a little bit later. Kept saying, okay, I see 3 here. Is there usually 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in this? So I don't know when they're going to be added, but also, I love the fact that Pete Alonso is in it, because those are the guys we love to watch. Yes, I like Gunnar Henderson, and of course I like Alec Boehm, but I just want the big Titanic home run hitters to be in there. Let's see who gets added on now.
And Donnie was not happy last week when we learned that Shohei Ohtani, despite being the starter at the DH spot for the National League in the All-Star game, is not going to be in the home run derby. There is 8 sluggers that will play or at least be featured in the home run derby, the new bracket with how things work. I'm sure there will be plenty more reveals throughout this week. Now to the actual action on the diamond from a jam-packed weekend that was America's pastime over America's birthday weekend, that being the 4th of July. And on Sunday, the Detroit Tigers pick up a sweep of the Cincinnati Reds in the American League. Cy Young frontrunner showing why. Tarek Skubal for Detroit fanning a career-high 13 yesterday against the Reds as Detroit wins 5-1.
Yeah, the man can pitch. We do know that, and I do see that sweep happened. You're like, okay, Detroit's batting, not really back into it. You take a look at their record, 42-48 overall, but it is nice to have that one young bright spot here, a dominant left-handed pitcher. You saw that on full display yesterday. Only 4 total hits in that game. Tons of strikeouts here for Skubal. That's just what he does.
Yeah.
How about that? 10 wins out of 42 wins from a pitcher before the All-Star break. That's pretty impressive.
Incredibly impressive. It is why Skubal is the favorite to win the American League Cy Young Award at plus 110, $1.20 in front of Baltimore's Corbin Burns. Those are the only 2 pitchers around the AL with a price less than 14-1, a 2-pitcher race for the American League Cy Young Award. In the American League East, one of the oldest rivalries in Major League Baseball renewed this weekend inside Yankee Stadium. Rubber match on Sunday Night Baseball between Boston and New York, and the Red Sox get a victory and a series win. 3-0, blanking the Bombers yesterday up in the Bronx. It was the other team, Boston, hitting a couple of solo shots late. It was scoreless into the 7th. Rafael Devers, 2 home runs in the final 3 innings, 2 solo shots for the 3 runs in total for the Red Sox as they win 3-0.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know if you're a Yankees fan. You hate the fact they got shut out. I understand that. But Luis Gil back on the mound finally, it feels like. 6 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, 9 Ks, no walks. You're supposed to win that game if you're the Yanks. But they just didn't bring the bats yesterday. And, yes, 6 total hits for the Boston Red Sox, 3 off Devers' bat. And you said 2 home runs as well, a couple RBI.
Yeah.
I like this Red Sox team. They're now 49-40 on the team. This is a playoff team you're watching right now. We'll see if they make any moves coming up soon.
They would be in wild card contention in one of those 3 spots around the American League postseason bracket if the season ended today. It does not, of course. We're about 90 or so games into this Major League Baseball season, 1 week out from the All-Star break. You got to feel bad for our guy, Luis Gil. 9-5 now with a 3.27 ERA, but yesterday, not really his fault. 6 2/3, only allowing 4 hits. That solo shot to Devers in the 7th, but did strike out 9. He does record the loss. He had allowed 16 earned in his last 3 starts entering, so better form yesterday against Boston. A historic day around the WNBA as the Aces roll in a big win, 104-85, covering as a 15.5-point favorite at home against the Dallas Wings. That's not really notable, but Asia Wilson scored 28 points to become the all-time franchise scoring leader for Las Vegas. And elsewhere, albeit in a loss in Seattle, Angel Reese, her 13th consecutive double-double. That's 13 double-doubles in a row. Now the all-time WNBA record, moving past Candace Parker, who had the single-season record prior. This was into multiple seasons. She had 12 from the end of 2009 through 2010. But now the record holder is the Rook for the Sky, Angel Reese.
Yeah, rookies are putting on a show here in the WNBA. Triple doubles over the weekend. Angel Reese continuing that scoring streak, and also the Aces now 13-7 after that win. I believe 8-2 in their last 10. So playing much better basketball here. Should be an exciting summer in the W.
A very exciting summer indeed. The Aces looking a lot better with Chelsea Gray back in the fold, as Donnie said. Caitlin Clark on Saturday, and a big fever win over the New York Liberty. 19 points, 13 dimes, 12 boards, the first ever triple-double recorded in WNBA history by a rookie. Only 38 total triple-doubles in league history in total. Davis Thompson, front 9-29 yesterday in the Quad Cities at TPC Deer Run to win the John Deere Classic, his first PGA Tour victory.
I mean, close to 30 under for the tournament here. That is absolutely shooting the lights out. I don't care what golf course you're playing on. Congratulations to him. $1.4 million richer today.
Fourth round action at Wimbledon today. Yesterday on center court, a huge upset. Coco Gauff, the American, goes down to fellow American Emma Navarro, who beats her outright in straight sets.
Oh, it's a great tournament at Wimbledon. We'll really miss it.
It will be. The seventh, by the way, Grand Slam appearance for Navarro, a Virginia Cavalier who won the NCAA singles title way back in 2021. We'll go around the weekend that was in Major League Baseball up next. England survived yesterday in the Euro round of 16. They score into stoppage time, and then in extra time, they score the game winner.
You want to wait to the very final minutes? And I say this again, Ben. I don't know. I think you were here last year for my rant on this. Why don't we just play soccer the way you play it when you're down a goal with like 5 minutes to go?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on the Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss hit it.
Only on SportsGrid.
You went to Alberta and, came back with a lot of different stories. I know that sports betting as a possibility, just like Ontario in 2022, we could see that.
The other big topic was Alberta, because sure enough, we've heard lots and we've talked about it on here that, a law was passed to allow the market to open up, and we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
A National League focus first as we start our weekend recap and review around Major League Baseball. A battle for the top spot in the National League East this weekend, but not really, where the Phils have an 8-game advantage over Atlanta in a division the Braves have won each of the last 6 seasons. But this weekend, it was mostly Philadelphia. The Braves win yesterday at home in the ATL, 6-zip. They were a minus 166 money line favorite. A total of 8.5 stays under for the third and final game of this weekend set. But Atlanta avoids the sweep with yesterday's victory. That means the Phils won the first 2 games of the weekend. What is your assessment, DRS, from the weekend that was in the ATL between the Fightins and the Braves?
Yeah, the Phillies just didn't want him to get swept out at this point, right? They got that lead ballooned up to 10 games. Now it's back to 8, and you can understand that. And also understand that the Atlanta Braves are also injured. But for the Phillies, you just want to at least grab one of those, and you grab the first set. So you're saying, you know what? This weekend we might have some luck, and it certainly wasn't the case. Yesterday, you saw Michael Mercado get the pitching start again for the Phillies, his second career Major League start. He was very good in game number 1. I was like, okay, maybe you have something here. But as we know, you go on the road in a playoff type of environment, 1 2/3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs. That's not going to get the job done. The Phillies bullpen was pretty good after that, but it didn't matter because you're not going to score any runs after a team grabs a 5-0 lead in the second inning. It doesn't matter at that point. It's still a long summer to go. The Phillies will win this division. The Braves, as we said, aren't going anywhere. They'll still be able to make the playoffs, but the Braves needed to win that series. The Phillies just couldn't afford to get swept. Playing the Atlanta Braves and then the Dodgers, you just hope it to hang around, and then you get the reinforcements back. So not upset there with that weekly, or should I say holiday weekend loss to the Atlanta Braves in that series.
And Reynaldo Lopez, great once again for Atlanta. 6 innings of shutout work, only 2 hits allowed, striking out 6. A 7-2 record now with a 1.71 ERA. That is the best in all of baseball. Jared Kelenic, a 3-run shot in the second, a part of that 5-run second inning, or at least by the time they were done with the second. But still, DRS, as you look at where things stand around the National League, the NL East, it is still Philadelphia in front in a large way. A weekend series victory for the Phils and still a large advantage. 8-game lead. That 58-32 mark for the Phillies, that's the best in all of Major League Baseball right now, in front of Cleveland and in front of Baltimore from the American League, and still outpacing the Dodgers in the NL as well. Minus 550 the price on the Phils to win the National League East. Second best number for the Fightins at plus 250 to win the National League pennant overall.
Yeah, and they'll be fine, and they are. And also, when you take a look at those injuries where it's like Spencer Strider for the Braves, or let's just say, it's Ronald Acuna, they're not coming back this year, so you can't say, okay, we're just looking forward to hanging around. The Phillies have that luxury right now. At the end of the month, JT Realmuto is going to return. Sooner than later, Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are eligible to come off the IL this week. Looks like Schwarber's a little bit closer than Bryce Harper at coming back. Harper probably coming back after the All-Star break, and they'll be fine at this point. You just don't want to have all that hard work that you did over the first couple months of the season, as they said, get up as many as 10 games on the Braves and see it slip back to 3 or 4, and then the pressure will be on. You just want to hang around that 7 or 8 game number, get the reinforcements back, and the Phillies will be fine the rest of the way. But getting back to that Reynaldo Lopez, absolutely sensational, an all-star now and absolutely deserving of. And this is a credit to that Braves front office that I've talked about, Ben, time and time again. You get Sale and you get Lopez, 2 of the best pitchers right now in Major League Baseball. Man, oh man, imagine what they could have been with Strider if he was healthy.
All of this without Spencer Strider, of course, no Ronald Acuna Jr. either, the reigning NL MVP winner. Reynaldo Lopez, though, just from an innings perspective, not necessarily up there. Still tied for the 6th best price to win the National League Cy Young Award at 20-1. By the way, plus 450, the price shortening now on Atlanta. Those 3 teams in the National League, the Dodgers, Phillies, Braves, all separated by just $3. Plus 150 for LA, plus 250 for the Phils, plus 450 for Atlanta. The Brew Crew, 4th best number at 12-1, a large drop off there. Speaking of Milwaukee and LA, 2 of the 3 best prices battling it out in the ATL. The 1st and 4th best price to win the National League pennant, battling it out in Los Angeles over the weekend. The Braves avoid the sweep at home. The Brewers avoid the sweep on the road in Los Angeles. At the Ravine yesterday, as a hefty underdog, Milwaukee wins the finale 9-2 over a number of 9.5. Christian Yelich back in his native Los Angeles, a 3 RBI game. Same for Blake Perkins. Again, the Brew Crew victorious 9-2 to avoid the sweep.
Oh, they needed that one, too. And if you're going into a game saying, I'm going to lose a 4-game set to the Dodgers, let's put our stopper out there, Dallas Keuchel, you probably thought you'd be in some trouble. He goes 4 1/3 innings pitched, only 3 hits, but walks around 5 batters here and doesn't allow an earned run. That's pretty impressive here. But Robleski is on the mound. I guess you try to take advantage of that, which, again, the Brewers did. They needed that victory. But, my goodness, going into that final game with Dallas Keuchel and winning it, that feels like a bonus for them.
And Milwaukee's still a 5-game advantage in the National League Central over St. Louis. The Brewers still 15 games above 500. Most teams around that 90-game mark here in a long 162 around this Major League Baseball regular season. Interesting game yesterday in the third of 4 with a fourth on this Monday inside PNC Park between the Mets and the Pirates. New York wins 3-2. They were a slight road favorite on the road. A total of 9.5 stays under. Scoreless into the 8th inning, DRS. The Mets scored 1 in the top of the 8th. Pittsburgh responds with 2 in the bottom of the 8th. And Francisco Lindor, a slight all-star snub. 2 RBI game-winning single in the top of the 9th off Aroldis Chapman, who, boy, oh boy, with a 4.13 ERA this year, has been bad in the Steel City.
Yeah, by the way, bailing me out were the Mets yesterday. An alt-team total, which the final leg to score more than 1.5 runs for a team was the New York Mets. And yes, they got 3, which I needed. But also, you know you're running hot with the Mets when they only score 3 runs. And I had 2 players in that game to record RBI. It was Lindor and it was Nimmo. Each one of those guys with 2 RBI for Lindor, 1 for Nimmo, casting both of those tickets. And it came right down to that final bat for me with Lindor. Thank you, Mets. You won't hear me say that too often.
And they did have a huge thanks for you yesterday. The Pirates, a slight and very slight home money line favorite in a game that starts at 12:30 today in Pittsburgh, the fourth and final game of this 4-game set. The New York Mets back to 500 after a 16-8 month of June. 4-3 so far in July for that proud organization. Now we go back to New York inside Yankee Stadium as we continue our recap next. England survived yesterday in the Euro round of 16. They score into stoppage time, and then in extra time, they score the game winner.
You want to wait to the very final minutes? And I say this again, Ben. I don't know. I think you were here last year for my rant on this. Why don't we just play soccer the way you play it when you're down a goal with like 5 minutes to go?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid.
You went to Alberta and came back with a lot of different stories. I know that sports betting as a possibility, just like Ontario in 2022, we could see that.
The other big topic was Alberta, because sure enough, we've heard lots and we've talked about it on here that a law was passed to allow the market to open up, and we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The rubber match yesterday of a rivalry renewed inside Yankee Stadium between those Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. As we go around the weekend that was in Major League Baseball, a series finale in the Bronx goes to the visiting team in Boston. They blanked the Bombers yesterday, and it was a scoreless game into the 7th when Rafael Devers hit a solo shot against Luis Gil. He hit another solo shot in the 9th, a home run in between from Rafaela. Then the Red Sox win 3-0 in the rubber match to take the weekend set inside Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, this team felt like we were leaving them for dead coming right out of spring training. Talking about the Red Sox, not much anticipation. You knew Devers was a star, but what would they be getting from some of their young players in that lineup? And it's been incredible. And, of course, you're going to lean on Devers, who yesterday bailed you out with 2 RBIs with a couple home runs in a 3-0 victory. You sweep the Marlins, you're going to take 2 of 3 from the Yankees, and now you wind up at 49-40 on the season and a team that should be making the playoffs. Now, if you are a Red Sox fan, you're saying, like, I hope they don't get used to it. It's talking about the management. Like, hey, you know what? Yeah. We can let superstar players go away. We can limit our payroll and still make the playoffs. Where do I sign up? That's not the way you're supposed to be acting as a Red Sox organization that has such a big following. You should be spending like the Phillies, the Dodgers, and the Yankees. But this core is young. I want to see if they add on to it because I like what they got starting pitching-wise from pitchers that you figure probably wouldn't be as dominant. I love that Kenley Jansen is finding his groove again with his 18th save of the season and timely hitting. This Red Sox team, as I said to open the show, they're going to make the playoffs. You just need that front office to say, let's get another bat, let's get another starting pitcher, let's get some bullpen work and see what we can do. I like what I see out of the Red Sox.
And how could you not? The Red Sox down 9 games above 500 at 49-40. Luis Gil yesterday, much better than he had been in his previous 3 starts. He gave up 16 earned runs in total in the last 3. Only one yesterday, the solo home run against Devers in the 7th. But because the Yankees didn't score a single run, he does record the loss. Now 9-5 for Gil this year, who was the front runner at a point to win the American League Rookie of the Year award. June 14th, DRS, an interesting date for both of these 2 clubs. It was the last series they had played against each other prior to this holiday weekend. It was at Fenway in Boston. The Yankees took the opener. They were 28 games above 500, 50-22, the best record in Major League Baseball. From that point, the Yankees are just 5-15. The Red Sox lost that opener. They were 35-35 at the end of June 14th. From that point, they have won 14 of their last 19. The Yankees are struggling, evident as we saw this weekend, a home series defeat against their bitter rivals. Now we go to the Twin Cities. In Minneapolis, the Twins walk it off yesterday 3-2. A home moneyline favorite against the Astros. Minnesota wins the finale and wins the series. What a day it was for Christian Vasquez. Walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th. Recorded all 3 ribbies for the Twins yesterday as Minnesota gets the victory.
Yeah, pretty incredible. And also Woods Richardson with a decent start yesterday. That ERA now down to under 3.5. That's nice to see from a young pitcher here. And you didn't capitalize all that much for the Twins. Only 1 of 7 with runners in scoring position. But if I'm going to get a start at a Spencer Arrighetti on the road, which gives me 5 innings and 2 earned runs, I probably expect to win that baseball game. Now, even though he had that decent start, that lowers his ERA just below 6 now. So the Houston Astros 46-44. I'm still amazed they're over 500, but the Twins are the better team and should have won that series and did. A couple clutch base hits there, as you said, by Vasquez late. We'll see where they wind up. Like the Twins, still don't like the Astros, even though they're close now to the Mariners. Why? Because the Mariners seem like they can't win to get out of their own way. Come on, Ends.
The Astros 2 games above 500, only 2 games back of Seattle.
Crazy.
The Mariners have lost 9 of their last 13, including the weekend at home against the Blue Jays. The last 2 losses against Toronto by only a single run. Yesterday, Dalton Varsho, game-winning RBI in the top of the 10th in extras. The Rangers sweep the Rays. They had lost 8 of their last 10, entering Baltimore a series victory with a 6-3 win against the A's yesterday. The Baltimore Orioles have won 8 of their last 11. The O's, DRS, 3-game lead to pace the American League East. You talked about the Red Sox being a playoff team, both Boston and New York, that being the Yanks, 2 of the 3 wild card spots if the season ended today.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a competitive AL East for sure. Now the Orioles taking full control of that division. I told you, we're not going to worry about the Yankees because I still think they'll be there at the end. But you don't want the O's to get a 5-game lead by the All-Star break. It looks like we might be headed there.
57-33 for Baltimore, 56-32 for Cleveland. The Guardians a series win and the best record currently in the American League. More on the early line up next. England survived yesterday in the Euro round of 16. They score in the stoppage time, and then in extra time, they score the game winner.
You want to wait to the very final minutes? And I say this again, Ben. I don't know. I think you were here last year for my rant on this. Why don't we just play soccer the way you play it when you're down a goal with like 5 minutes to go?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on the Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid.
You went to Alberta and came back with a lot of different stories. I know that sports betting as a possibility, just like Ontario in 2022, we could see that.
The other big topic was Alberta, because sure enough, we've heard lots, and we've talked about it on here, that a law was passed to allow the market to open up, and we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Exactly 1 week from right now, next Monday, July 15th, it will be the start of the All-Star break around Major League Baseball. Exactly 1 week from tonight, the Home Run Derby in Arlington, followed by the Midsummer Classic, that being the All-Star game in 2024 on Tuesday evening at Globe Life Field. So, DRS, we're 1 week out from the All-Star break around MLB. We'll certainly take a time next week to look around the odds in Major League Baseball, World Series prices, pennant prices, division prices, individual award races as well. But we do that here 1 week out to reset after a long holiday weekend. The Dodgers still the favorites to win the World Series at 3-1. But the team that used to have the second best number was from the other league, that being the AL, the New York Yankees. The Yanks have moved back a 6-1 price. Still the third best number, 50 cents in front of Baltimore. The Phils, that second best number at 5-1. And the Atlanta Braves still round out the top five at plus 900. Those five teams all in 3 digits with a price shorter than 10-1.
Yeah, and it's what have you done for me lately as we see some of these odds changing. And also keep in mind, right now, currently on the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Dodgers still 3-1, the Phillies still 5-1, but the Yankees now also tied with the Phillies at an even 5-1 price, and the Orioles take slightly step back here at a 7-1 price. And then you see the Braves at 9-1, which is kind of crazy, right? You take a look at the first two teams in that order here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the Dodgers and the Phillies. We would agree with that, right? I don't know if I agree with the Dodgers at that price point of plus 3-1 and the Phillies at 5-1. When both of these teams are fully healthy, I think the Phillies are overall better because of that starting pitching staff. But having said that, like writing off the Atlanta Braves, right? They're still 4th or 5th in line, depending on how you take a look at some of the standings here, at a 9-1 price, when all I keep telling you is like, yeah, the Braves will be there, but we don't really think they can win anything once they get to the playoffs. And here they are at an under 10-1 price, which shows you how top-heavy right now Major League Baseball is, where you see good teams like the Guardians and the Twins and the Mariners think of what you want, 20-1. Even the Houston Astros, which 2 weeks ago we're saying stick a fork in them, they're dead. They're 20-1 and basically in that top 10 in the odds at the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's crazy to see. Now, if you are a team like the Yankees, the Orioles, the Phillies, or the Dodgers, you better take care of business this year, because Most years, you have a lot more equalness there, I should say, in the overall odds race. It's top heavy, and that's the best I can say right now. And I do agree the Dodgers and the Phillies should be those two top teams.
Some reshuffling in those numbers that you see on your screen. We'll bring you the updated odds in just a moment. These in the overnight hours. I know our producer Joe Frizo hard at work even in those overnight hours, so we've seen some moving in the market. Not a ton of movement in those top five. The Yankees up by $1 to 5-1. The Orioles back by 50 cents at 7-1. $2 separate the two top teams in the American League East, where the O's have a 3-game lead. The divisional odds-on favorites now at -150, and only a $0.50 separates the two teams atop the American League pennant prices. But, Donnie, what stands out to me, you mentioned top-heavy. Those 5 top teams, all at 10-1 or less, 9-1 or less, in fact, on Atlanta, separated by just $6. 5 teams separated by just $6. There is a larger gap between first and fifth than there is from fifth to sixth. An $11 drop-off to the Guardians, Twins, Mariners, Astros, all at 20-1. So I ask you once again, for a guy that does not often believe in the Central Divisions actually contending for a pennant or winning a World Series championship, the Guardians have the best record in all of the American League. Is there any value then on Cleveland at a large 20-1 number in comparison to the rest of the field?
Right now, no. And that's just well, that's a cop-out at this point. It's really not. You have the All-Star break coming up, which is de facto the halfway point of the season, even though technically we played more games at the halfway point. But I'm going to withhold judgment until I see some of these smaller market teams like the Cleveland Guardians say, okay, you know what? We have a really good Major League Baseball team right now. Let's go out and add some pieces. Because if you tell me right now, and again, get that crystal ball pen and say, the Guardians are going to be major players at the deadline. A frontline starting pitcher, another bat in that lineup, fortify that bullpen. Yes, there's value at 20-1. But if the Cleveland Guardians organization goes, no, we're good as is, and we can't expand our payroll, and we'll let these guys play it out. No, I don't think 20-1 holds much value at all. And that's the tough part about it, because once you get to that deadline, we know what's going to take place. The Dodgers will spend money and acquire talent. The Phillies will do the same, the Yankees and also the Orioles, which is really the top 4 that I'm looking at to win the World Series. So for me, trying to buy in on a Twins, let's just say, or a Guardians, I don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. And if they stay pat, they're not going to be factors in the playoffs. But if they don't, they might be able to make some noise. But I'm going to reserve judgment right now because, quite frankly, I don't see them spending all that much. And the one thing I do know is the Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, and Orioles are going to fight it out at the deadline, which means the Guardians will be in there, and it raises the price for those great pitchers and those great batters. Right. And I don't know if the Guardians will be all in at that point here.
And again, it should bear repeating that the last 2 seasons in Major League Baseball with the expanded playoff bracket, we have seen chaos come October, where the Braves and the Dodgers were the short favorites all year long. 162 games in the National League to only come up lame the last 2 years in the National League postseason bracket. The Rangers were the 6th seed in the American League, knocked off the O's, the top team, and then, of course, made their way to their first World Series championship in franchise history. So the wild card teams at the moment in either league, the Yankees, Twins, Red Sox, Boston at a 50-1 number. The Royals a game and a half out of that third and final American League wild card spot. And the Astros 3.5 games out of that third and final spot. The 3 teams in the wild card spots as of this moment in the National League, the Braves, Cardinals, and Padres. San Diego lost the final 2 games of its weekend set against the reigning pennant winners in the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are back to an even 500 for the first time in a very long time this season. But the Padres had entered the weekend winning 12 of their previous 15 games. So again, Donnie, if we're looking for value on very long odds in a playoff bracket that has led to some craziness the last 2 years, the Padres 40-1, the Cardinals and Red Sox 50-1, those D-backs at 70-1 right now. Some long odds to be had in the World Series race.
And if you want to get crazy, you can take some of that strategy away as we're trying to quantify like what's going to happen in the central divisions, right? Because the one thing we do know is if you win that division, you go into the playoffs with home field advantage in that first round. So if you want to go down and say, you know what, Forget about taking a look at maybe the Mariners, who, again, one of those guys is going to win it, or the Astros at 20-1. Go down to the Texas Rangers at an 80-1 price right now. They still have some veteran pitchers on the shelf that they're hoping to get back and making that lineup whole. We know they haven't played their best baseball. This team is fresh off of a World Series championship that's having a little bit of a malaise this year. But if you're going to tell me they're only a handful of games back right now, not playing great baseball at an 80-1. And if they do win that division, get home field advantage, and you can't say, like, hey, first time back in the playoffs in a long time. No, Ben, they just won the World Series last year. So for me, I look at that 80-1 price and say, let's get crazy here with the Rangers.
And Donnie, I think you bring up a good point as well. Trying to predict the outcome of these divisional races or wild card races at the moment is a little bit difficult because you're hoping for something to happen and then it correlating the value on still a long number. There are pathways that you can see, like the Red Sox as an American League wild card contender at this moment. But the easiest pathway are teams in the Central that have large divisional leads. The Guardians have the best record in the American League, 6 games in front of Minnesota in the AL Central. And Cleveland is 20-1. The Brewers have a 5-game advantage over St. Louis, a 25-1 price right now on the Brew Crew. That is 10th best in all of MLB. Something to keep in mind as you look at those numbers around the World Series odds. A lot to figure out. Only about 90 games into 162, even with the All-Star break on the horizon, exactly 1 week away. Did you miss us over the weekend in terms of our NBA conversations? What happened around the association when we were gone? Up next. England survived yesterday in the Euro round of 16. They score into stoppage time, and then in extra time, they score the game winner.
You want to wait to the very final minutes? And I say this again, Ben. I don't know. I think you were here last year for my rant on this. Why don't we just play soccer the way you play it when you're down a goal with like 5 minutes to go?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid.
You went to Alberta and, came back with a lot of different stories. I know that sports betting as a possibility, just like Ontario in 2022, we could see that.
The other big topic was Alberta, because sure enough, we've heard lots, and we've talked about it on here, that, a law was passed to allow the market to open up, and we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150-5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds? Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
A lot can happen in a short span in the NBA offseason. Maybe this summer hasn't been all that dramatic around the NBA, but some big news over the weekend. In a sign and trade, DeMar DeRozan is now a member of the Sacramento Kings. He was introduced inside the Golden One Center during the California Classic, some early NBA Summer League action, if you will. Over the weekend, DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender the last few years. The addition of DeMar DeRozan should only be a positive.
No, it is. And also, all you're looking for is, if you have as an organization, right, your only goal is to what, Ben? Give your fan base something to believe in for the next season. Did you get better over this off season? And it doesn't always have to equate to, well, we didn't do enough to win a championship. Why should we even fight at this point? I like this move for DeMar DeRozan, and you didn't get him at one of those max deals like, hey, man, 4 years, $200 million. You got him relatively cheap. And also, when you take a look at that team, he's not coming there to play defense. He's coming there for that mid-range game. You got three-point shooters. You got guys that can get up and down the court. It's a nice fit into that starting lineup that gives you a formidable starting five. So as a Kings fan, you should love this move. Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not, but that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
Yeah, they absolutely did. The odds reflected 25-1 for the three-time All-NBA performer that is DeMar DeRozan. Still long odds relatively in the Western Conference, but a shorter price now. And DeMar DeRozan is a benefit. A veteran who spent the last few years, of course, in Chicago, the last three prior to that in San Antonio, and a long career with the Toronto Raptors in the meantime. But still last year, even at the age of 34, in his 15th NBA campaign, he averaged nearly 38 minutes per game. That was the most in all of the association a season ago. So a veteran, 34 years old, but will make an impact for Sacramento. In the sign and trade, I believe Harrison Barnes makes his way to San Antonio. Our producer, Joe Frizo, can correct me if my knowledge was off there. The Orlando Magic extend Franz Wagner. He remains in Orlando. Not sure why Miles Bridges keeps getting deals, but the Hornets do re-sign him. The 76ers signed Caleb Martin, DRS. They're adding some pieces as well. Of course, Caleb Martin, an all-time playoff performer 2 postseasons ago for the Miami Heat. And on his podcast, Philly P, Paul George debuting the number 8 Philadelphia jersey for the first time.
Yeah, how about that, too? Like, Caleb Martin comes over, and usually it's like, hey, go to the highest bidder here. But that wasn't the case. I believe like $50 to $60 million on the table for the Heat. Much, much less from the Sixers, but maybe just felt it was a better fit here, and one less year. He can hit free agency still and maybe grab that final last contract for him. But that was a great move for the Sixers. But you take a look there at that Harrison Barnes move. You can't ever have enough shooting here. And if you take a look at the young Spurs team, you get a guy that's filled it up with about 38% from three-point range from his career. Just the past 4 years, 39%, 39%, 37%, 39%. So you know what you're getting here out of Harrison Barnes. But you're right about Miles Bridges. It was almost like he gets in trouble. They're like, boy, he's really talented. Let's slide him in with one of those qualifying offers. And then maybe when that new cycle hits and it's a year or two later, let's give him that big deal back. So the NBA is, and I can't just say it's the NBA. If you're in sports and you are ultra talented, you will get way more chances than just the average Joe in whatever job that you do out here. It's just the way of life in the NBA and certainly throughout professional sports.
It is the sad reality. What happens outside of the playing surface always matters more or does not matter as much in professional sports. It sucks, and it's almost enabling. I wish it would change. The Charlotte Hornets decided it was not worth changing in this moment. Donnie, as we look around the NBA at this time, the Celtics still remain a very short favorite to go back-to-back, maybe hang championship banner 19 after number 18 this past year. Again, Boston is in front, and rightfully so in our estimation. Everybody in the Eastern Conference and the entirety of the association. But now that the big moves in this free agent summer have really kind of come to a halt, the reshuffling of the odds has stalled. The Thunder plus 750. The Nuggets plus 850 alongside the Sixers, tied for the third best price. Philly vaulted in front of New York after the acquisition of Paul George last week, last Sunday evening. Anything stand out into where the market has settled now as you look at the odds around the NBA?
As we take a look at Major League Baseball, and we just reviewed their odds to win the World Series, and quite frankly, it's been the same way the entire year, Ben. We're looking at like that top four. Any one of those four teams can probably win it. But in the NBA, I understand we're still not all the way through free agency. Trades will happen. Teams will assemble a little bit differently than they appear right now by the time we start the season. But legitimately for me, there are 8 teams that can win an NBA championship, and that goes from plus 300 as a price to the Celtics to plus 1,500 to the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think the Lakers are 35-1. You see that shelf of a big difference between the Bucks and the Lakers. But if you tell me right now, Bucks, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Knicks, Sixers, Nuggets, Thunder, and Celtics, they're all legitimate teams. Now, granted, the Celtics, yes, of course, should be a 3-1 price at the top of the heap. They are the best team and returning champions. But I think we're having unbelievably fun Eastern and Western Conference all the way through next season. So just to start it out, I love what I see with 8 legitimate teams to win an NBA championship next year. I like that.
In my mind, the odds storyline for most of this NBA season was the Big Four, the co-favorites out east, Boston, Milwaukee. Of course, the Celtics separated themselves from everybody else in a banged-up Eastern Conference throughout the postseason, including Giannis and the Bucks. And it was the co-favorites out west, the Nuggets, the reigning champs at that time, and the Phoenix Suns. The Suns never living up to expectation. But as we got closer to the playoffs, the questions was who would be those newcomers? The Oklahoma City Thunder, the top seed. The Timberwolves, the 3 seed. When would the odds start to reflect the playoff positioning? They did deeper into the postseason, and of course the Mavericks, the 5 seed in the Western Conference, making it all the way to the NBA Finals. The odds perspective for me, the storylines, everybody out east, the Sixers, the Knicks, the Bucks, so on and so forth, playing for that second spot behind Boston, and it is a new era in the Western Conference. Some new teams out front with the Thunder, Nuggets, T-Wolves, and Mavs pretty tightly compact at the top of the odds list. Summer League action, Ronnie James talk next. England survived yesterday in the Euro round of 16. They score into stoppage time, and then in extra time, they score the game winner.
You want to wait to the very final minutes? And I say this again, Ben. I don't know. I think you were here last year for my rant on this. Why don't we just play soccer the way you play it when you're down a goal with like 5 minutes to go?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on the Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss hit it.
Only on SportsGrid.
You went to Alberta and came back with a lot of different stories. I know that sports betting as a possibility, just like Ontario in 2022, we could see that.
The other big topic was Alberta, because sure enough, we've heard lots and we've talked about it on here that a law was passed to allow the market to open up, and we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The debut for Bronny James in a Lakers uniform, albeit a Summer League jersey, over the weekend. The California Classic got underway this weekend. Some Summer League rosters already underway. The official Summer League does start later this week. But Bronny James in his debut, 22 minutes, 2 of 9 from the field, 4 points. However, if you look at some other media networks, maybe not here on the SportsGrid, but some other media networks, you would have thought he went off for 44 points in only 12 minutes, the way that it was covered. There is going to be a lot of eyeballs and notoriety, all the attention paid to Bronny James. He's understanding of that. The Lakers are understanding of that. Heck, LeBron James understands that as well. So always take everything with a grain of salt for a rookie just trying to learn the next level. But, Donnie, what did you make of the first game of Bronny James's NBA career, albeit in Summer League?
Exactly what I made out of his USC career. This is what he is. He's just an average basketball player out there trying to get some hoop in. He ends up scoring 4 points, not all that efficient. It wasn't a true NBA game where you're going against NBA talent that's going to be on a lot of rosters next year. But there is sort of nerves, and you want to find your way. I understand that. But you know what else I took away from this? I don't know if this was a live interview or a taped interview, but I saw LeBron James going like, yeah, Bronny just doesn't care. Like, he goes to the gym and he goes home and play video games. That means to say, I got to get out in front of this and tell everybody just to leave my son alone because he doesn't listen to it. Meanwhile, he does listen to it because everybody listened to it. His dad listened to it, and he says it his entire career. Just let the kid settle into his role, which is going to be playing 25 seconds at the end of every NBA basketball team like a college kid whose father is the coach of a college team, where you get some run at the end of the game and the crowd stands up, shoot, in a 40-point game. And when he makes it, the crowd goes nuts and they go home, and away you go at this point. Let's just let him settle into that type of NBA career.
Hey, Andrew Hurley is a 2-time national champion at Connecticut. Worse things have happened. But you are correct in terms of the interview that LeBron James did with ESPN's Dave McMenamin over the weekend, a long sit-down conversation where he was asked about a variety of things in Las Vegas at Team USA Olympic training camp. He was asked about J.J. Redick, his own playing career at the age of 40, and, of course, his son, Bronny James, saying he does not listen to any of the noise. He doesn't really care. He understands all of the attention that is already paid to him and just blocks it out. I did think LeBron had a very noteworthy quote about Bronny James still having the hunger to live up to the name, that with everything given to him, especially with all the attention that would come to pursuing a professional basketball career, Bronny James is still very invested in being the best basketball player he can be. That's cool. I root for the kid. I hope he does well. Is he of the caliber of an NBA player? That remains to be seen. He will get his chances. He's on a guaranteed 4-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, a guaranteed 4-year deal, not a two-way deal for pick number 55, but for Bronny James to be a factor of this Lakers organization. And that is, frankly, how he should be judged and evaluated. He is a member of the Lakers NBA roster. Is he contributing at that clip? That remains to be seen. His fellow Laker rookie, Dalton Knecht, who was drafted 17th overall, a pretty strong start this weekend. By the way, Bronny James did not play yesterday on Sunday due to some swelling in his knee. Dalton Knecht, fourth best price for Knecht 4, now officially at plus 850 to win the NBA Rookie of the Year award. Crazy movement in this market. For what apparent reason, I'm not sure, outside of bets. Alex Sarr was the favorite, still is the favorite, although the number is longer at 6-1. Zachary Rizache, the number 1 overall pick for Atlanta. Now, the third best price, Zach Edey, storming up the board. Plus 950 on draft night, now plus 650. Edey, second best number to win the Rookie of the Year award in the association.
We're going to get a lot of movement here in the Summer Leagues. This is going to get, this guy can play, can't play. If you remember last year when the Summer League started, man, Wembanyama, that guy's the worst player I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe he went number 1. That's the last time we're ever going to pick a kid. I mean, come on, settle down. These guys get, and you have to understand there are nerves as well. And just getting back to Bronny as well. Why isn't Bronny in that MVP race or Rookie of the Year race at this point? I mean, he's not going to play all that many minutes. But you made a good point here. He does seem like a very good kid. And if there's one teacher that you want on your side, it's your father being LeBron James. He's going to be schooled the correct way to play in team basketball, but it all begs the difference. The NBA is not so much sometimes about team basketball. It's what you can do individually for said team, and we'll find out sooner than later.
Bronny James has the longest available price listed for the NBA Rookie of the Year award
What
at
is it?
300 to 1. But 300 to 1.
Right.
But is there value if he's already on the
Take it,
roster?
Kevin.
Maybe.
Take it, Kevin.
Hour 2 next.